Now we go into the muscles of the abdominal wall.
The anterior abdominal wall muscles specifically. We have the rectus abdominis, which originates at the pubis between pubic tubercle and symphysis. It inserts at the cartilages of 5th to 7th ribs, xiphoid process of the sternum as well. Innervation is caused by the intercostal nerves of T5 through T12. And the actions is that it flexes the trunk, compresses the abdomen, and stabilizes the pelvis. Our other muscle of the anterior abdominal wall is the pyramidalis, which originates at the pubis anterior to rectus abdominis, inserts at the linea alba, and runs within the rectus sheath. Innervation is caused by the subcostal nerve, the 12th intercostal nerve specifically. And the action is that it tenses the linea alba. And now we're on to the anterolateral abdominal wall muscles. So the front sides. So our first one is the external oblique, which originates at the outer surface of 5th to 12th ribs. It inserts at the linea alba, pubic tubercle, and anterior iliac crest. Innervation is caused by the intercostal nerves T7 to T12. And the actions unilaterally, it bends the trunk to the same side and rotates the trunk to the opposite side. And bilaterally, it flexes the trunk, compresses the abdomen, and stabilizes the pelvis. For the internal oblique, which is our next muscle, it originates at the thoracolumbar fascia, the deep layer, the iliac crest, the intermediate line, and the anterior superior iliac spine, and the iliopsoas fascia. It inserts at the 10th to 12th ribs, the lower borders, and the linea alba, the anterior and posterior layers. The innervation is caused by the intercostal nerves T7 to T12, as well as the iliohypogastric nerve and the ilioinguinal nerve. The actions caused are for unilaterally, it bends the trunk to the same side and rotates the trunk to the opposite side, and bilaterally, it flexes the trunk, compresses abdomen, and stabilizes the pelvis. Now we have the transversus abdominis, which originates at the 7th to 12th costal cartilages, the inner surfaces, and the thoracolumbar fascia, the deep layer, the iliac crest, the anterior superior iliac spine, the inner lip of it, and the iliopsoas fascia. Inserts at the linea alba and the pubic crest. Innervation is caused by the intercostal nerves T7 to T12, iliohypogastric nerve, and the ilioinguinal nerve. Actions are unilaterally, it rotates the trunk to the same side, and bilaterally, it compresses the abdomen. Now we're on to the posterior abdominal wall muscles. Starting with psoas major, we have it originates from the superficial layer. Superficial layer originates at T12 to L4 vertebral bodies and associated intervertebral discs, the lateral surfaces. And the deep layer originates at L1 to L5 costal processes. Insertion, it inserts at the lesser trochanter of the femur, and joint insertion at iliopsoas muscle. Innervation is caused by the direct branches from the lumbar plexus coming from L2 to L4. And then the actions, so the hip joint, flexion and external rotation. The lumbar spine with a femur fixed, like the femur is fixed, you have unilaterally, contraction bends trunk laterally, and bilaterally, you have contraction raises the trunk from supine position. Next muscle is the iliacus, which the origin is the iliac fossa. It inserts at the lesser trochanter of the femur, and the joint insertion of the and joint insertion as iliopsoas muscle. Innervation is caused by the femoral nerve coming from L2 to L4. And the actions for the hip joint is flexion and external rotation. And the lumbar spine with a fixed femur is unilateral. Contraction bends and trunk laterally. And bilaterally, contraction raises trunk from supine position. Then we have the quadratus lumborum. The origin is the iliac crest and the iliolumbar ligament. Insertion is the 12th rib and L1 to L4 vertebrae, the transverse processes. Innervation is caused by T12, L1, and L1 to L4 spinal nerves. And then the actions, unilaterally, it bends the trunk to the same side, and bilaterally, bearing down and expiration stabilizes the 12th rib as well. Oh, muscles of the pelvic floor. Oh boy. Drink up. Okay. Look, we're getting there. 15 more pages. Let's go. All right.